He's the ultimate supreme. So someone from a Muslim background, he will say, so who's God? Who's Allah? So it's a different language, but they all point to same, Krishna. So in Sanskrit, I say Krishna. But when you think about Krishna, what is in your mind? That is what that impersonal Brahman, super soul, and the form of Krishna is about. How do you realize? What do you realize about Krishna? That is your understanding. So when someone sits down and starts to find out who's the supreme, who's the ultimate, and he realizes that the God has no form, he's impersonal Brahma. Okay, so that is the realization from an impersonal point of view. Now, if he further goes deeper and tries to realize that maybe it's incomplete, I need to find further, and he realizes that no, there is something which is emanating this particular impersonal Brahma, which may be a Paramatma or the super soul. And then if he goes further, that no, there is something more to it. There is a form, you know, and that is coming from Krishna. And if he goes there, that is the complete realization. That is what is explained here. So the example of this sun planet is given like this. So sun, when the rays are, emanating from the sun, if we are only happy at looking at the rays, that means we are in the impersonal Brahma. We have not realized the whole truth. Okay. And then we start looking carefully. Oh, there is something from which these rays are coming. Maybe it is sun. If we understand that source, that means we have understood the Paramatma realization that yes, there is something which is sourcing this light. So impersonal Brahma means, nothing, maybe a light or a sound or whatever they call it. There is no form. And then you start seeing a little form, a circular form of the sun, then say, no, this is Paramatma. So that is Paramatma realization. There is a circular, you know, figure. Then when you actually go onto the sun and see, no, this is actually a full planet from where these rays are emanating from. That is the complete realization of Bhagwan. That is what it says. So it is good to understand it and then try to realize it. It takes time, of course. It may take, you may be quicker in understanding that. It may take years, it may take lifetimes. But this is the ultimate understanding as per the Shastra. Does it make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so Kshitij here, Prabhuji. So basically, the
Yes.
day we reach to Vaikuntha and we see our supreme personality of Godhead, we can say that realization is complete.
Yeah.
Is that a fair
So,
statement?
so reaching a Vaikuntha, Srila Prabhupada explains, you can reach Vaikuntha in 1 minute if you are really, keen and you're serious about it. It takes 1 minute to reach Krishna by chanting his names. That's what is said. So Kali Kale Krishna Nama Rupa Avatar. It says that in Kali Yuga, Krishna is his name itself. So when you say the word Krishna, it's actually Krishna. But you should be convinced. How will you be convinced? By realization. And how will you realize? By
How
recitation,
will you be
by repetition.
realizing? And
Yep.
So that's the point. So Srila Prabhupada said very simple in a statement that you don't have to accept it straight away. That's fine, no problem. What he said that Krishna is the ultimate source of truth and he is all attractive and he is in his names itself. You don't have to accept it by the face value of someone. No need. But you try it. You try chanting the names of Krishna over a period of time and then experience it. whether you realize that this is the actual effect, whether this is actual supreme truth or no. And then it's up to you whether you accept or reject. That's fine. But do not reject without trying. Okay. So for knowledge, this is all good. But to apply, it is the repetition of the words of the Lord which help you realize this. Okay. All right. So this is only Bhagwan. This is what we discussed on this verse. So Krishna says, Kutastva kashmalamidam, from where these impurities have come to you. Vishame samupasthitam, and that too in this hour of crisis. Where have you got these impurities from? Anarya jushtamaswargyam. This makes you an anarya. Anarya is the opposite of Arya. And Arya is nothing but Aryan. Have you heard this word Aryan? Yeah. It was made very popular, or rather unpopular, by a person called Adolf Hitler. Yeah. But his understanding of Aryan was a very a race, in terms of a race, a racist supremacy, or the race supremacist kind of a mentality. That if you are from a certain race, you are an Aryan. But that is not the real definition of Aryan. Aryan means someone who has the purpose of life as spiritual development, spiritual progress. Someone who is fixed only on the spiritual progress and follows the spiritual culture is called Aryan. It is not based on what type of body you have, or it is not based on what race you come from. It is not based on any of these. It is purely based on someone who is sole purpose is spirituality, is Aryan. And that was a part of our Varnashram Dharma, spiritual progress, the purpose to be spirituality. So Krishna says that with these impurities, you become an Anarya. You do not become an Arya. You're not an Aryan. Anarya Jushtamaswargyam. And this will take you to the lower planets. It will not take you to the higher planets. So what are the higher planets? Like one Kshitij said just now. What are the higher planets? Was Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is a higher planet.
Yes, yes, Swarga.
Swarga is a higher planet. Above Swarga is Vaikuntha. What is Vaikuntha? What is the meaning of Vaikuntha?
The Param Dham of the
Yeah,
Supreme
word,
Personality of
word,
God.
Vaikuntha word. What does that Vaikuntha means? So Kuntha means anxiety, fear, fear of anticipational fear, fear of tomorrow is anxiety, fear of next thing happening is anxiety. So Kuntha means anxiety. And Vaikuntha means no anxiety. Vaikuntha Lok means a place where there is no anxiety. So it is higher than heaven, because heaven will give you bodily pleasures, but it will not take you out of anxiety. So the understanding from this also is that aswarga, when we say swarga, vaikuntha, we say that. So mostly people say, I want to go to swarga, enjoy. Yes, okay. But that will not take you out of anxiety. material pleasures will not take you out of anxiety. Okay. So Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha is where the Lord resides. So when you above that is Krishna Loka. So when you serve Krishna, when you understand that we are a body, we are the soul, we are not this body. That's okay. That is, realize that. Above that, you realize that I should be without anxiety. Okay, that's also okay. But then the real position is that when we serve Krishna, that is the ultimate position. Okay. Aswargyam akirti karam Arjuna, and this is going to bring you infamy. So do not bring in these impurities. All these things are going to bring you all this kind of repercussions. That's what Krishna tells him. So this is the real statement from Krishna. Krishna also spoke in the last chapter, in chapter 1, but that was very simple. Okay, I'll take you in the middle. Have a look at your, opponents who are ready to fight with you. But here he starts giving the real, responses, that this is not right what you're doing. You know, you can't have these kind of impurities at this point. He further continues in verse 3. We'll try to touch this verse also today. I'll share my screen. Please repeat after me. क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
क्लेप्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते
नैतत्त्वयि उपपद्यते
शूद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यम्
शूद्रं हृदयदौर्बल्यं
त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप.
त्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप
क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
क्लेप्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
नैतत्त्वयुत्पपद्यते
नैतत्त्वयुपपद्यते
शूद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यम्
शूद्रं हृदयदौर्बल्यं
त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप.
त्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप
क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
क्लेब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ
नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते
नैतत्त्ययुपपद्यते
शूद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यम्
शुद्धं हृदयदौर्बल्यं
त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप.
त्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तपः
So Krishna becomes a little more harsher here in saying, can somebody read the translation?
O son of Parth,
Pratha.
Pratha, O son of Pratha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy.
So who's Pratha? Who's Partha? Kalpesh, you tell me.
O son of Pratha,
So who's Pratha and who's
Pratha
Partha?
is Kunti.
Very good. And who's Partha?
Parth is because he's son of Pratha, he's Parth.
Who's Partha?
Arjun.
Very good. So Parth is Arjun, Pratha is Kunti. So he is addressed as son of Pratha. Klaibyam Masmagamaha Partha. He tells him that you are son of Pratha. Do not be impotent. Do not act like a eunuch. You are son of Pratha. Son of Pratha means Pratha is a very highly regarded lady. Kunti. Kunti Maya is considered very highly regarded. Very tough lady, because if you look at the life of Kunti, she has handled so much of brutalness, roughness in her life. If you look at her life of Kunti, she has literally handled every step. She has handled problems, every step. Initially, she wanted to test the the boon she has got. She tried to test it, and she was given children. Because of that, she had to handle that kind of, she had to face that kind of, you can imagine that kind of a situation from others saying that you have children without your husband. So she married Pandu. Yeah. And from that, after that, she had three children, but not from Pandu, but from the Devatas. She had children. And after that, Pandu, he left his body and she was in the forest. After that, she was given exile because of Pandavas losing the gambling match. After that, she lost her husband. She lost her house. She raised the Pandavas with her, with, and she didn't have any support at the time. So somehow she managed to do all these things all by herself. She was been, she did, the Kauravas tried to kill her in um, the house of wax, Lakshagraha.
Lakshagra.
So she was, and when she came back, when she was living here, she was not treated. She was very ill treated by the Kauravas and the Gandhari as well. If you read Mahabharata, she wasn't treated that well. She was not treated like a queen, although she was a queen. So she had all the problems in her life. And Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained that she had actually, she was praying to Lord Krishna, saying that thank you for giving all these problems to me. If you would have not given me these problems, I wouldn't have remembered you. So that was her mood. That is Kunti. Very, very elevated, very tough. So if you are born of that mother, you can't speak of these things. That's what he tells me. You cannot speak like a eunuch. And that also gives him a past memory because he had become a eunuch for 1 year. That's another pastime. We'll discuss sometime else. So he calls him that. And on the contrary, he calls him another word, that you don't be a Shudra. It doesn't suit you. It doesn't befit you. These are Shudra kind of activities. Hridaya Daurbalyam. Weak heart is a characteristic of Shudra. Yeah? Yes? Correct?
Vivali.
Fearful. Yeah? Fearful. When you, even if you're right, you might lose the job. You may say that, okay, fine, I'll accept if I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong, I'll accept it. Being fearful, that is Shudra. Yes? So that's not what Krishna asks him to be. So if you read Bhagavad Gita, the first instruction when he'll start in 2.11, Krishna says that, first word he says in 2.11. Who was reciting 2.11? Who had this 11 to 15? Kshitij.
Myself,
Yeah.
yeah.
What is the first word of 2.11? Without look.
Ashocha, no
Very
shocha.
good. Ashocha. What does Ashocha means? Do not fear.
Who is not clean?
Who's not fearful.
Mm.
Okay.
Shocha. Ashocha. Ashocha means do not fear. Do not lament. The last word of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, 18.66, if someone can open. It's Sarva Dharmana Parityajya, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That verse, 18.66. What's the last word of that verse?
Sucha.
Very good.
Worry.
What does it say? Read the whole verse again.
The last part. Mokshasyami
Mokshashyami
mami mat sucha.
ma shuchah.
Ma
Ma
sucha.
shuchah ashocha. Do not fear, do not fear. So it's, Bhagavad Gita is encapsulated by do not fear from Krishna. Do not fear. If you are surrendered to Krishna, if you think about Krishna, if you want to serve Krishna from your heart, then do not fear. He will take care. That's what he says. That's Bhagavad Gita. So who fears? Shudra. He says the Shruddham Hridaya Daurbalyam. That this weak heart, petty heart, pettiness of the heart is by the Shudra. weakness. Give it up. Tyaktva, get up. Parantapa. What is Paramtapa? The one who chastises his enemies, one who destroys his enemies is called Parantapa. And that is another name of Arjun, Parantapa. So let's see if you remember other names of Arjun from last chapter. Okay, starting. Please don't look into your books. Tell me other names of Arjun. So one is Parantapa, one is Partha, which Kalpesh already said. So what are the other names?
Gudakesha,
Gudakesha. Gudakesha means
one who has conquered his sleep.
one who has conquered his sleep, one who can work while he's sleeping. Amazing, isn't it? Yes, one who can
Dhananjay?
act while he's sleeping. Dhananjaya. Yes,
Dhananjay,
Mataji.
yeah.
Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is someone who has acquired all the wealth. He did it for his brother Yudhishthira. Any other name? Dhananjay, Parth, Parantapa,
Kaunteya,
Kunti? Oh, yeah.
Kaunteya,
Conte.
Kaunteya, son of Kunti. Yes, Kaunteya. Any other name? Yes. Anyone remembers this word? Kapi Dhwajaha. You remember Kapi Dhwajaha? What does that mean?
one who has the Hanuman's
Hanuman.
flag on his baggage.
Yeah. Kapi Dhwajaha. The one Kapi means Lord of the monkeys. Kapi Isha. Kapi Isha means Lord of the monkeys. Anybody knows Hanuman Chalisa here?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So how does it start? Jai Hanuman Gyan Guna Sagar.
Jnana
Jai
Gunasagar.
Kapishati Hulo Kujagar. So that
Ujagar.
Kapish, that is Kapi Dhwajaha. So that is the Lord of the monkeys. Kapi Dhwajaha. So that Hanuman is on the flag of Arjun. That is another name of Arjun. So this is the new name where it comes up in 2.3 from Krishna. Parantapa. Different names. You see, beautifully given by Krishna. Madhusudana is called to him so that he will. There is a reference. There is a context why these names are used. Not just like that. There's a reference to it. By the name itself, there is a reference. That is Sanskrit. Just say the name of a person and it has a context in it. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So Kapi Dhwaja, Parantapa, you kill your enemies, you destroy your enemies from your background. How can you act like this? That's what Krishna telling him. Just by saying that word. Don't act like a eunuch. Don't act like a Shudra with weak heartedness. You are Parantapa. So this is the kind of pep talk he's giving at the moment, but he'll further continue from 2.4, which we will do in our next discussion. Okay. So we did 3 verses today roughly, but I would like you to recite your verses regularly. That way you will get closer to the words of Krishna.
So every time we have to recite that 1 to 5, like my mine is
Yeah,
1 to 5. Every class. Okay, fine,
yeah,
fine,
yeah,
Prabhuji. Yeah, that's
yeah,
very good that in that we will remember. Yeah.
yeah. That way you will maybe after a few weeks you will not have to open the book. You know.
Yeah, you're right, Prabhuji. We are very like पता नहीं
Yeah.
कहाँ ये हम पाप अपने धोएंगे, but yeah, we are not doing anything.
And then after some time you will be inclined to know the meanings, and then maybe you can tell me the meanings.
Yes,
Directly.
Prabhuji. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks, Prabhuji. That's
Any questions or comments on today's discussion? Otherwise we can end.
I just want to say one thing, Prabhuji, is that
Yes.
if you know how we so now we are like today we had 10 people, but Vikas has dropped. No, not Vikas. Someone has dropped out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I would like to request now, if you are coming, we always put the numbering system, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you're
Okay.
not coming, please say no. So at least we know that you're not coming. Because if we are going to do the reciting of the of the shlokas, we don't want to spend like half an hour thinking who is doing what, and if that person is not here, I mean, it just creates too much waste of time.
Yeah. Maybe you can put that note in the group.
I'm going to put some note actually because
Yeah.
it needs
You
to be
can put a nice, gentle, humble note to everyone, saying that you can, put your verses on, and
gentle and humble.
yeah,
Nahi.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, sure. I'll try to be gentle.
very nice. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All good. So we'll catch up on next Sunday.